Hello everybody, I am Liz, this is French Toast and Books, and today I wanted to share with you, it originally was going to be 10 books with taboo subjects, but it kind of devolved into 12 books because 3 books are semi with the same type of taboo subject, so I decided to make it 12 books that I recommend to you guys, each with a different type of taboo subject. So if taboo subjects are for you, if you like to kind of challenge your mind or challenge social norms, then this video will point you towards some books to get started. The first book is Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett. This is a YA contemporary romance, but our main character has HIV. She's a teenage girl, she was born with HIV, and so she's navigating relationships, being a teen with a sexual drive, and talking about sex positivity and how to navigate wanting to have sex while she's HIV positive. I honestly learned more about HIV in this book than I did all of the years I volunteered at the AIDS Foundation, because I didn't really know about the intricacies when it comes to relationships and kind of what hoops they have to jump through, how to be safe and sexually active and all that other stuff. So it was very interesting to read, and it was a real eye-opener. Next we have A Land of Permanent Goodbyes by Atia Abawi. This book centers around terrorism and asylum seekers, those who make the pilgrimage out of their countries that are war-torn and wrapped with terrorism, especially terrorism leading the government. As it takes place where our main characters are leaving Syria, traveling and trying to seek asylum in Turkey and then in Greece, and all of the horrors and the scariness that happens. It is narrated by Destiny, which I thought was very interesting, and a kind of raw, different take on asylum seekers and what they go through and just war and terror in general. There is a lot of kind of trigger warnings, obviously, in most of these books that I do talk about. Specifically with this one, it does start off with bombing that tears through a city and blows up our main character's apartment building. So there's a lot of death in the first few chapters that you have to really kind of be prepared for. Next we have one of my all-time favorite books, which is Lucas by Kevin Brooks. This really tackles racism, specifically racism that kind of forces people to blame the other, the minority, in order to not disrupt status quo. Because this centers around Romani, who's traveling to a small town in the UK, and he enters town at the same time a girl's body is found washing up on the shore dead. And so there's a lot of controversy between who actually killed her and how she ended up dead and all this other stuff. And obviously this town blames this Romani traveler just so that they don't have to start an investigation, just so they don't have to disrupt status quo. And our main character really struggles with that disconnect between society. The next book rec I have for you today is Faster, Stronger, and More Beautiful by Arwen Ellis Dayton. This book really centers around what happens when medicine, science, and technology run unchecked, unreviewed by ethics boards and committees, and people are just allowed to do whatever they will. This story takes place over many, many generations. Everything kind of wraps up in the end with a specific character and theme, which was really interesting. But it starts out with 2 children. I believe they're twins. I know they're brother and sister, but their bodies are failing in different ways. And so the doctors decide to be radical and put all of the functioning organs in one sibling so that the one sibling will survive, and without the surgery and the procedure, both siblings will die anyway. So it was a very interesting start and a really interesting thought process to what happens when things go unchecked, unreviewed by ethics boards and committees, and how that can change what we do in society and how a lot of boundaries get pushed and everything kind of just runs rampant. Next, we have Dancing Naked, a novel by Robert Hodgson van Wagner. This book is so devastating. It has some heavy trigger warnings, so let's get into that. Right now, it specifically talks about a man's son. He commits suicide and kind of opens this Pandora's box about why his teen would commit suicide, because he didn't even think that his son was sad or anything, and we find out his son is gay and can't really understand the disconnect between the Mormon religion and how the Mormon religion, especially years ago when the Mormon religion was very anti-gay. So it does talk a lot about how religion affects and allows for homophobia, and also a big aspect of a lot of little tidbits in the story also centers around child abuse, child sexual abuse, and traumas, and not addressing it because it's like taboo in like a little religious community, and how that shapes people growing up and how they center that onto their children when they're adults, and how it changes family dynamics. The next book is The Listener by Rachel Bosch. It's a lot about gender, therapy, suicide, sexuality, adultery is in it as well, and it specifically takes place when a therapist kind of takes things too far or is not the right match for the people seeking therapy. It centers around a college student who has a lot of confusion by his gender and sexuality and all that stuff, and in order to seek help, things kind of get really messy. The next one is Don't Touch by Rachel M. Wilson. This one talks a lot about mental health as a teenager, specifically OCD tendencies with anxiety, a whole slew of anxiety disorders, and what happens when it's untreated or a teen is trying to make excuses and exceptions for their mental disorder, and how it kind of just interferes with not just school but also social life. Our main character, she has high anxiety, potentially OCD, and she doesn't want anyone to touch her. She doesn't like anybody touching her. She wears full-length sleeves, gloves, everything, and she rationalizes a lot of it, and it was very, very interesting to get into her psyche, especially when she wants to try out to be the lead in the play Othello for her high school theater. Next, we have Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. This centers around rape specifically, which is a more fresh take than most teen rape stories, where our main character is actually the sister and best friend to the rape accusations. So her best friend claims that her brother raped her, and so it does really dive into victim blaming and how you, as on the both sides of the conversation, handle a rape accusation. Who do you trust? Who do you believe? Alright, the next 3 books I have are all with the same type of subject matter, but a different spin for each one. And so I will show them all and talk about them. We have Mem by Bethany C. Morrow, The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg, and Genesis by Bernard Beckett. All three of these stories centered around artificial intelligence, or what humanity creates, and whether or not they can be these created beings can be seen as human, especially when they don't necessarily meet the typical standards of all other types of created beings. And so things obviously get very, very messy when the line between AI and humanity are blurred. So Genesis, we'll talk about this one first. This one centers around a semi-post-apocalyptic, post-plague community where they've isolated themselves to get rid of the plague that is surrounding the rest of the world. And it really talks about how they as a community isolated themselves, what parameters they took to do so, and it centers around the history of someone trying to get out and it being imprisoned. They create AI, and the main character of the book researched this historical figure in this society and is discussing it as a dissertation for her peers and her university board. The Kingdom has a different spin on it. It's a theme park similar to Disneyland, but the characters are all AI, and one of the AI falls in love with a human, and the human falls in love with the AI, presumably. However, the human ends up dead, and so there's this huge investigation on whether the AI was actually capable of love, because this robot is not supposed to love. Also, whether this AI can skip out on the programming and kill the person that she supposedly loves. And lastly, we have Mem. This one is where the beings, or artificial intelligence, whatever you might call them, they aren't exactly labeled, are created in order to store memories that are harmful to the citizens of this 1920s community. It's meant to make people happier because they're getting rid of these memories that cause harm and cause sadness and depression and all those other things. And here our main character is one of these mems, these created beings to hold memories. However, instead of being like a typical mem, she retains not just her memories, but all the previous memories of her host. And then not only that, but she also starts thinking for herself and wanting to go beyond the memory, which is very different from all the other mems. And it really just kind of creates this, how can she be a person? She's a double, she's a copy. Alright, last but certainly not least, With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This takes place where our main character is a teen mother. And there's not a whole lot of stories about teen motherhood because it's such a taboo subject. We have our main character wanting to not just make a future for herself, but she did all she could to stay in high school while being a teen mother. And then also how she's going to navigate college afterwards. And so she's really just navigating how to make a career, how to finish high school, and whether or not the culinary arts is for her, as she takes a culinary arts class. And it was just such a beautiful story. Our main character is also multiracial, and so it also talks a lot about racism. So there you go. There are 12 books, 10 topics that are considered taboo in society, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope any of these recommendations sound appealing to you, something that you want to pick up. If you've read any of these books and enjoyed them, please let me know in the comments below. We can create a discussion about these stories and why society considers them to be taboo, which is such an interesting thought process that we even have these taboo subjects when a lot of these subjects are more common than people think. We just don't talk about them. So please, please, please let me know in the comments down below all your thoughts, feelings on these books, or if you have a taboo subject book please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your recommendations. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, all of that jazz. And until next time, remember that I love you. Bye!